just yet. But thank you all for being in this session. Very excited to share some of the wins and learnings that I've had throughout my journey building ABM for customer marketing, as well as then opening it up for more of a group discussion, because I'm sure we have a lot of great experience sitting around these tables here today. So let's get the best of both worlds. As we can tell here, ABM for customer marketing, but who in the world am I? So my name is Marie Elliott. I work for Aprimo, which is a SaaS company. Our major product is digital asset management software. I'm based in Indiana, so if any of you guys are looking for an excellent vacation spot, let me know. The direct flight is about 2.5 hours from here, so not too bad. I work in the SaaS space. My customer marketing journey has kind of worn all the hats and then worn several of them at the same time, and hats don't look good on me anyway, guys. So very excited to be sharing this part of my journey with you. I'm a big remote work advocate. So as you can imagine, a lot of tech opportunity within the city of Terre Haute, Indiana. So remote work allowed me to continue to grow my career, and it's something that I'm giving back within my community to help share that this can elevate you, can bring new acquaintances and friends and people that I totally never would have met if I had to stay within my own organization, within my own community. I'm a soccer player and coach, so if any of you are athletes and want to commiserate on being too old to do the cool things you used to do, let me know. And why waste time, say a loud word, when gift do trick. So I like to share this one a lot within my organization. I'm known for speaking in GIF in my team's channels, but let's be honest, this one gets used a lot more. Very excited to talk about ABM today, but I think we can say that both of these really apply to the work that you're doing within customer marketing. So some of the things we're going to talk about today, strategies, what is ABM? Maybe we need to start there for some of us, which is great. Some do's and don'ts when building out a program, tips and tricks that I learned so that you can do better than me. Some use cases on how you can apply ABM to your customer marketing campaigns that you're already running, especially if you are a team of one trying to manage all of these things. And then, like I said, the open discussion time to be able to share some of our additional ideas. So the setup of ABM, account-based marketing, you're really looking at building personalized, specific campaigns targeting the main pain points that those accounts have and how your solution or company or strategy can fill those needs. The hard thing about ABM is getting to know the accounts. So, spoiler alert, who knows an account better than a customer account? So ABM for customer marketing, I think, is actually a little bit easier than building out ABM plays on the net new side. You know your customers, you know why they came to you the first time, you know what pain points they're solving, what pain points they want to continue to solve. You know more about their account and their buying journey and their buying group, right? So all these challenges that you have maybe with your friends on the demand gen side are already solved for in customer marketing. You want to really set up within your organization why you're running ABM versus some of the other campaign strategies that you may have. And one of the hard things about ABM is that you really need a lot of buy-in from the other areas in the organization. Certainly we have a lot of that already in customer marketing. We already are very collaborative, but ABM requires some real effort from your friends on the sales side and the customer success side, that you have to have their leadership buy-in and pressure to get that work done, or your campaigns will not be successful. So really making sure that you have buy-in from the top, from the beginning, before you start putting in the legwork to build out your ABM campaigns. And if any of you were in the metrics session and down the hall earlier, ABM is no stranger to issues and challenges with having the metrics measured. whether you have those fields already built to show success within your campaigns, whether you need to get them built, and then what does that success look like? You want to make sure that everyone is on board with the point of ABM is to increase campaign or customer engagement. The point of ABM is drive opportunities. The point of ABM is expansion, right? Get everyone on board with what success is going to look like before you get started, because then you're chasing your tail trying to prove impact later, which sucks. And then room for pivot. You want to establish authority at the beginning that you are the one in charge of this campaign, you are the one in charge of this strategy, and when you're measuring against those assigned metrics, if you're not seeing success, you have the authority to pull the levers to make a pivot, making sure that you don't have to go back to the customer success team to say, is it okay if we go in a different direction? You don't have to go back to the sales team and say, is it okay if we add an additional account that also meets this criteria? You want to set from the beginning, you know the ways to make this successful, and you are going to get it done. So who is ABM for? Some of the things that I get when talking with individuals about launching an ABM program is, can this even work for us? So one of the big things that should be pretty straightforward, but isn't always, is knowing who your ideal customer profile is. Account-based marketing doesn't make sense if your customers are solopreneurs. There's no additional account to go learn about, to go expand into. You've already got that individual, right? Same thing with knowing that if you're in the small business space, they may not have the additional business units that could also use your product, right? They may not have a global branch. They may not have a special sector within their marketing, whatever your organization solves. So really looking at accounts that are in more of the mid-market or enterprise space is going to give you the most impact for the effort that you're putting in. Financial opportunity within the account. This is a really important piece to know that your customer can actually buy more. Knowing that they have the revenue levels to purchase additional product, to have additional lines of business. This is really an important part for knowing who the buyers are within the account. Are you going to need to have a completely different conversation about putting through your purchase orders, or is it an amendment? These are really important things to know so that you can be putting the correct personas into your campaigns. And then accounts with room to grow and scalability, I kind of bled into that already. But knowing that you have, for example, an account that already has global on part of their contract, and so all they're going to do is just add new users, right? That doesn't make sense to have a full, robust ABM campaign built out for them. So knowing what kind of expansion may be available is going to help you with targeting some of those accounts. Same thing with adoption, whatever your ABM goal may be. So here's ways that ABM for customer marketing might fail. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4 are not fun to go through, y'all. So learn from me and avoid these. Companies with no clear lead routing. One of the challenges that I'm sure many of us face, whether you're running ABM or expansion or cross-sell or upsell, is how in the world do I get credit for this? And how are we tracking that? And part of the issue is knowing what to do with a new lead that comes in for a customer account. Have that very clear on whether that goes to a BDR, whether that goes to a sales exec, whether that goes to the account exec, whether that goes to the nurture flow to get the demo, right? What is your organization's commitment to that account, and who are they going to talk to first? Don't wait until a campaign is successful and you've got leads coming in and you're going, oh shit, what do I do? Don't do that. All right, lack of a visibility into your accounts. This is that part I talked about earlier, getting the heavy lifting from your friends over in customer success. If they aren't tracking in a place that you can access, things about their account that make them suitable for expansion, that make them necessary for higher adoption, for customer education needs, all these points you could touch with ABM. If you can't access that, how are you going to build a segment? How are you going to know what accounts are good to build out these campaigns? How are you going to plug in that personalization within the content if you can't get to it? And so make sure that when you are targeting, especially if you're starting an ABM program, pick those accounts that your customer success directors know really well. And they have the information about what those pain points are, whether or not they're realizing value within that. A legacy customer may be great for that, or it may not. So really having that visibility is going to be important. Sales and account team and marketing team alignment. I feel like this applies to literally everything, but I wanted to make sure to call it out here. You're going to have the alignment on the goals. You're going to have alignment on the metrics. You're going to have alignment on who's picking the accounts that you run the ABM campaigns to. So if you don't have that yet, you got to start there. Your campaigns are not going to be successful if you don't have everyone bought in and working together. And ABM takes time, especially if you're looking at building out customer accounts with expansion, with cross-sell, with upsell. You're looking at things that may not appear yet, right? So how are you going to show that it's working the right way? You may have an account that, your campaign worked, but they're going to add it on with their next renewal cycle, and it's going to be all on the same opportunity. So it's not going to be called out that this was an expansion. This was something they planned to do 4 months ago when you ran your campaign, but they're just waiting to make procurement easier. So know that ABM takes time, and you've got to find these other ways within your data to show that it is having an impact, whether that's engagement, whether that's adoption. There's various ways you can look at that, but know that it's not going to be an overnight success. All right, I did have handouts, but I'm not seeing them here, so I'll talk with Dana about that. But I do have a worksheet that I had hoped to give you all. And it really is a framework to go through with your accounts team, your customer success team, to outline what the account's all about. One of the big things that I realized is that we didn't have this information stored in a way that it could be utilized. So I picked top 10 accounts, one with each customer success director, and we talked through who is this customer? What do they need? Are they getting what they need? Are they in a good spot to be having these kinds of conversations? What help can marketing be giving you in your work in supporting this customer? And so these workshops were really helpful, not only for gathering this information, but also getting alignment with our customer success team on what accounts were actually good. Out of those 10 workshops, I would love to tell you that we found 10 target accounts. But we got really good alignment on what a target account should look like after walking through these. And it was a really helpful way to kind of level set on what a shared meaning is of a target account. One of the things within ABM is that kind of push and pull on sales tells you which accounts versus you identify which accounts. And this kind of helped get everyone on the same playing field of what accounts are good. So whether they come from sales, whether they come from my segmentation, we know that we're both speaking about the same kind of customer. All right, ABM light, because ain't nobody got budget to buy more stuff. One of the big things I get a lot is, how do I start this without buying the fancy tech? Certainly there are intent signal software out there. So, hey, if your demand gen side is using it, go see if you can get a license. Graft off of them if you can. But if you can't, really leveraging the information that's already within your CRM can help you identify whether or not they are in need of or showing display of these campaign metrics. So knowing those account indicators for if they are hitting a threshold of usage, if they are if they've stopped with usage, right? That's another thing. If they are an account that you have several buying units already identified within your CRM, right? So look at the information that you may have already collected. Account knowledge, like I said, the workshops were really helpful. Some of the other things, if you have the time to dedicate to looking into these customers, go talk with them and find out what other parts of their org may benefit from it, right? If your software could be applicable to additional areas. One of the things that I found a ton of success in is sourcing contacts in other business units and then running it by my contact. Is this who heads up marketing over in another country? Is this a account team that may also find value, right? I didn't ask them to tell me who's over there. I did the legwork first, and it made it much easier to have that lead sourcing and then confirmation process when I did some of the legwork up front. But still having those conversations to validate it so you know you're targeting the right people. It also helps prime the pump for those conversations because now your customer contact knows you're going to be talking to their friends. So you have kind of the internal champion thing running there too. LinkedIn searching, certainly a helpful tool. You can get as free or as not free as you want on that. But being able to source some of the correct contacts within that you'll be utilizing in your ABM campaign. And then community, if you have a customer community, if you have an open community, this is a great way to not only identify some of those pain points within the account and start listening to what they're saying and who's active, but it's also a great way to build out those supporters. If they are engaged within your community, maybe that is an account that you can go and specifically target their personal pain points because you've read it, you've seen it, they're openly sharing within your community. So this can help you identify some of the content you need to be adding into your campaigns, some of the targets that you may need. All right, ABM for customer marketing in action. So one of the strategies that I've utilized ABM for is in customer retention. So we do have a couple intent signal sources. So one of the reports that I set up was looking at who are the accounts that suddenly started researching our competitors. Y'all, that's not a fun report to get. But it's a really important one that can help you support your customer success team by building out these ready-made campaigns that you can then launch with content about these customers. These are kind of some of the early flags that I used to help with customer retention. You know what's going on with the account. They've already shown you what customers they're considering, so now you can layer in some of your takeout pieces. And you can really be intentional with the personalized outreach to your customer contacts that you already know how to get a hold of and support those retention efforts. I also have one that I've built a trigger for anyone coming up with renewal within 3 months so that we can have conversations with customer success to go, is this an account that you need marketing support on? And having that recurring conversation has been super helpful for building out if they need these targeted campaigns. Cross-sell and upsell, I think I've talked about a couple different times now, but being able to identify the accounts that are ripe for those and making the marketing personal. I had a contact on LinkedIn last week that really asked a great question. And said, if they were a customer that came in through an ABM play on your demand gen side, they're going to keep expecting that personalized marketing touch, even now that they're a customer. And I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. So I went back to my ops team and I said, how do we make that a field I can check so that we know that anytime we're building out any sort of expansion campaigns, we're ensuring it's an ABM targeted campaign, that we're having that same philosophy that won them the first time, keep them and grow them now. And one of the best things that I've seen with both of these is looping in this third stage. ABM can support some of your other customer marketing efforts with things like these supported content areas, so webinars, case studies. Man, my most successful ABM campaign was to a customer that I was able to use a case study from their coworkers. And so being able to land that within and say, hey, go ask Steve. Like he's my Superman over there. The engagement numbers on our paid social and email were unreal. Probably my favorite campaign. And then you've also got your customer education nurtures. This is really important. I'm sure we all know that. But being able to make sure that they are getting their particular pain points addressed. And again, you can go back to your CRM data, you can go back to your app data to identify these are the customers that keep going to this knowledge library article, or they seem to take forever using this part of our product. And so having ABM support the customer marketing side, you already know that handful of accounts that made this need. All right, so I know I am not the only expert in the room. So I wanted to get some discussion going today about anyone that either has started ABM or is looking to start ABM and discuss some of the challenges and get some ideas on how we can address those. So I guess quick show of hands, who is currently running ABM campaigns? Okay, and who is considering starting but feeling like they may have some roadblocks? Okay, we've got a couple. Do we have anyone that's identified those roadblocks? Other than just time. Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to share an ABM challenge that they have overcome for those that have already started running it? Yes.
I can probably share. So the way that our organization is built is we do have an ABX team from field marketing, and then we have customer marketing, and we focus on cross-sell, upsell in the demand gen world. So I think it's trying to figure out what swim lane we can kind of be in between the ABX team running their like ABM plays, and then our customer team, and then trying to like interconnect the two, which can be a little bit difficult since we sit in two different realms of marketing.
Okay. And so your ABX team focuses mostly on demand gen then, or?
Yeah. So there's some customers that we have that are customers, but then they also are leads because of how their organization's set up. So it's kind of just determining so they sometimes work on customers, but then should we bring those into our campaigns? So it's trying to figure out the swim lanes between the two groups, the teams.
And the other part of that may be beneficial is that depending on how you're running your ads, ABM gets very targeted with the leads that it's outreaching, and that makes your volume issues kind of wonky. So anytime you can tie it in with a demand gen effort, you're going to have better success there too. Anyone else running ABM and want to share a story? No? All right, cool. You're just going to keep listening to me then. So one of the creative examples that I've had with running ABM is looking at what accounts were sourced from the same sales executive. We had an opportunity to rethink how some of the customers were onboarded. And so we looked at those accounts and we were able to build essentially like a re-onboarding that hit the pain points that were missed on the first round. Not a super sexy campaign to run, but it was highly impactful when we looked at the engagement and adoption numbers from the customer on the first go round versus after the campaign ran. So knowing what the customer thought they were coming in to solve, knowing what they had achieved thus far, and then building out that bridge basically to help them get to where they had wanted to be in the first place. That was an important part of, honestly, an early retention campaign. So, yes.
One of the things that our team is looking into is the more individual ABM plays versus the overarching, more general customer or prospecting plays. You mentioned one of the challenges being time, and so obviously the idea of scaling the individual is hard to do. But is there any thought process that you or anyone else here has had in terms of where to spend your time and what has been most fruitful?
I'll say if everyone has time constraint issues, so for one-to-one ABM campaigns, you have to identify the accounts, do the research where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So whether it's the biggest expansion opportunities or, I don't know, the easiest cross-sell, upsell opportunities, whatever that is, even if it's only 5 or 10 accounts, do that, invest smartly, and also I would try and outsource some of it, whether that's through an agency or a tool, content creation, anything like that, but just choose the accounts where it feels like the data shows this is the biggest opportunity.
Yes, the one-to-one campaigns are going to be your most successful because you are truly speaking directly to that organization, but it takes a lot of time to set up and launch. And if you miss, that was your one shot, right? So that kind of goes back to have the metrics agreed on early and know how to track success or failure early so that you can pivot if it's not functioning in the way that you want it to. From our side, we're looking at about 5 accounts per quarter that we target on the one-to-one campaigns. And then we actually don't do any of the one-to-many, so we've only got a couple that are in the one-to-few, and those are kind of the more project-based, so the retention-based or the re-onboarding-based, right? So those are kind of your more pocket business need cases, but we found that even though the one-to-many style of a campaign is easier to get off the ground, it wasn't having the same kind of success, and so we're it's less effort, but it's no reward. So we're gonna keep focusing on the piece that it's hard work, but it's successful work. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so one of the things that I want to impart is that ABM takes a lot of coordination. We do have the account knowledge. You've got the worksheets on your tables now. These were the processes that I went through with our customer success team. I scheduled a half hour with the individual customer success director and their AE, as well as anyone from the customer support side that had been recently involved involved with them, and I think I went like 6 months. So that we could get a more holistic view of the account, and the 10 accounts were identified ahead of time. So we had an understanding of where we were going, and it was a really effective workshop. So I hope that you can take those with you and build something that works for your organization. Getting the buy-in is essential. You can't do this alone. There's a lot of marketing that we're smart, we've got details, we can probably run it on our own, but ABM can't work that way. You've got too much reliance on your other teams. So make sure that leadership believes in it. Make sure that leadership is aligned on what the success metrics look like. Make sure leadership is aligned that you're the one running it, and you're the one that's making those choices about what to do with the campaign. Measure. There's never enough data points out there, so understand which ones you're going to look at and make sure that you're making everyone that's involved within the campaign socialized to those metrics so that they know what's going on. One of the early challenges I had was I was sending out at end of the month kind of metrics on this is where our ads are performing on this campaign, this is where the email's performing, etc. And I found out our customer success team had no idea what those metrics even meant. So making sure that not only are you measuring things, but you're socializing them to others so that they knew, okay, well, is that a good open rate? Like, maybe. Let's talk about open rates. So a really important thing is making sure that everyone is on board with what those look like. Customized, personalized strategies. Again, that's the secret sauce of ABM, is that you are showing you know this account, you know your customers better than anyone else out there, and you know what it is they're trying to solve with your product or service. So getting the right content on your landing page, the right webinar added, the right case study, get a case study with them first. That's always a win. And making sure that every touch that they get shows that you know them. Don't make them fill out a form. You already know their information. I would suggest don't send any new leads from that account through to your BDR team. Send them to somebody that knows them, knows that account, makes them feel special, even if they aren't yet part of your customer group. And then the real part that everyone knows as a marketer is that in order for ABM to be successful with your customer marketing efforts, you need a lot of magic. There's a lot of effort that goes into building out that campaign and driving the alignment, and having some of that others don't understand is going to happen. So knowing that what you're doing with supporting your customers, supporting the accounts, supporting the growth and adoption and sales comes with a little bit of marketing magic. Thank you.
Buy-in from sales is obviously like the key piece of this whole thing. Account planning, how does it integrate with that, right? But I found, and I wasn't directly responsible for ABM, but I worked very closely with the folks that did, and there was just a real lack of understanding from very senior leadership in sales on like what is ABM, how fast are you going to see results from it, right? I mean, just not even the same book, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so I'm just curious from your experience as far as like the internal education piece, like yes, buy-in, but like first there needs to be kind of this understanding of what it is and what it isn't. And I'm just curious what your experience has been on that, and what do you have any like things that has worked particularly well in terms of, especially with senior leaders in sales.
Yeah, and that was part of my learning, is that I went into these workshops and I said, you've already told me these are the top 10 accounts. And then when we got into the weeds, they were not the right kind of accounts. And so I learned that putting that out early, these are the criteria we're looking for. These are the types of challenges we want to solve for you. These are the types of channels that we can utilize. This is the kind of expectation we have for what a successful ABM play looks like. Do you have any customers that would benefit from that? Do you have any customers that you feel could fit these criteria? what information do you need from other systems to help identify those customers, right? Sometimes you're pulling stuff together that sales doesn't even have access to yet. So letting them know what you think good looks like, and then helping them work backwards to identify those customer accounts. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit more about the one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many? What sort of concerns me, I mean, I don't call it ABM, maybe I'm doing one-to-many, I'm doing segmented communications and like identifying the right person, the right account, the right messaging. But even that, we don't have great success. So to do one-to-many, one-to-one or one-to-few sounds really, really risky to me. There's almost so much time and effort, and you get like 10% conversion rate. Like that's really small. So I would love to hear like specific examples or how you think about that. Is it that each deal is worth $1 million, so you only need one to make the whole thing worthwhile? Or am I thinking about it wrong?
Yeah, no, absolutely true. And that's why I think she mentioned that having those couple to focus on, because it is a lot of work. And you do want to focus on the ones that you're going to have the most impact on. Part of that issue is not having accounts that can grow, right? So running a one-to-one campaign to them when they just add on 20 more users, that doesn't make sense. So you really want to target your one-to-one campaigns to those that do have that greatest need or that greatest opportunity. With the retention campaigns, right? You're going after your big fish that you're afraid of losing. Maybe they are the $1 million, I don't know what your budget is, but looking at those accounts that are going to be the most important, whether it is deal size, logo size, whether it is a staple within the industry, right? It might not always be dollars, it may be some of those other important business needs. But yes, you really want to get hyper-focused on the ones where you need that success. So that even if you don't win 100% of the time, there's that organizational knowledge that you helped on an area of need that wouldn't have been touched otherwise.
Do people have examples of like specific ABM campaigns? I think part of your question is like, what does that actually look like to one-to-one? Because like the email, it's not just sending out emails. Like what are people actually doing in their version of ABM?
Yeah, for me, we have a custom landing page built for each of these campaigns, and it is loaded up with content and assets that align with the organization that we know about them, as well as meeting any of the pain points that we know we're trying to address. And then it's multi-channel, right? We are directly calling them out within the advertising. If we can use logo, we do use logo. We are running the email campaigns to all of the contacts within the account that makes sense for whatever the segmented need is. We've got an in-app play that runs to those customers as well when they're logging in. And then within community, we're targeting those contacts that make sense. Now, not every campaign hits every channel depending on what that initial reason I'm running it is. But I'm using literally everything short of sending them a postcard. Which I could probably do, I just don't have mailing addresses. Yes?
Expanding off that, we are also using our included community to target ABM customers, and so what we have set up is a campaign that the account manager can trigger. It's their option. If that customer account is valued over a certain threshold, then it drives the users to the community, and we target them with specific case studies, content, demo videos, and using gamification, we incentivize them along the way and kind of unlock rewards to make it more compelling for them to get that content.
Two questions, one a little off. What community do you use? What platform?
KL. It's gone.
It's okay. We can come back to that. You mentioned about personalization, which is key, obviously at a contact level, but even when you do incorporate the account logo, do you require that the account logo, you have explicit approval from them, or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. And we've got a couple different tiers on our contracts that say, yes, we can use the logo in marketing materials, or yes, but you need to have written approval every time you use it, or never speak our name in public.
Yeah.
And so depending on where those are, I always err on the side of we have to get the logo to have been fully approved, because the process to getting a written approval can often take so long that it just delays the success of an
And
ABM campaign.
Even though it's showing their logo to themselves, that's still like where you're like, we have to have explicit approval. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Is that the case for everyone? I'm just curious. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think if it's only from that they're seeing it, we would use their logo.
Is that standard? Because we've gotten pushback from big accounts that are like, what the hell are you
It's
doing?
a risk.
Because they don't. To them, it seems like it's not. To them, it appears like we might do LinkedIn ads, for example, or it appears as though it's visible to everyone. I'm pissed.
Yeah, that, I think, so we only do ABM for prospecting.
Yeah.
Or we haven't done it into expansion yet, but it is, I think I agree with you, Lainey, that we use it as far as for, since it's just them. But we have gotten, like, maybe one account was like, what is this? And then when we told them it was just them, it was fine. But
So we get, like I brought that up to being on the customer marketing side. Our demand gen team runs our ABM, and I was like, you really should have approval to use the logos. And they're like, it's fine. This is standard best practice for ABM. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, but customers are okay.
Customer experience, you know, we do
Exactly.
it and we also do best for C, because sometimes when I see that even maybe a third party has used the Workday logo, and we're really careful about, you know, for as much as we ask everybody for logos, we won't give it out, and they get confused, they're like, is this spam, or is this for real? And so with their logo too, I find it gives that impression that this is something, I don't know, that is sort of sanctioned, or is it coming from their company or not? So getting a logo approval, especially because they're such important accounts, they're super strategic accounts. We don't want to mess it up because we didn't do that part.
Thank you for validating that. Right thing to do.
That's what this is for. I think there was a hand over here.
I just wanted to add to, on the backlash of like marketers just using logos wherever they want. I've now seen customer contracts comes up, you cannot use our logo or talk about it all publicly.
Yep.
Which is because of the reason we use the logo thing.
So we have a logo approval. It's in our contract process, and we'll mark them in Salesforce like do not use. I think we're looking to update it because it's either a yes or no, and that's not really black and white, because in some cases it's yes but with explicit approval, or yes but only in these instances. You know, like it's so we're trying to be doctors.
They call them publicity exceptions, by the way, and that's what, so if it's in a field that says like a publicity exception, then it means that, yeah, there's something in there, you've got like less, you've got to go through it to see what it is.
Okay.
Where is the backlash? When people tell you this is best practice to use the logos, which is not, it's like for people.
Yes, I
And
think
it's a
it's
horrible customer experience. You can tell them, the other side of it will be the customers are gonna shut it down from the beginning of the relationship because of their bad practices. That's what I would put that message in the toilet.
Yeah, and that's happening where they shut it down. So now they shut it down for like they don't use logos anymore. They're like on pause, and I'm like indefinitely on pause.
I would also just say to that there's the flip side of not just like that account getting like mad, but you could also like be a whole trigger for like them leaving you, and like starting about like what if something else, and then you're not only risking that ARR, but then you're also risking like the ARR that they can impact through whether it's like acts of advocacy that are like planned through your team, or those like non-ones that still happen with peers in the industry anyway, because we all know people have friends, whether we like to admit it or not, people talk. So like it's kind of the flip side of like if you're at a Fortune 200 company, that's a whole different ballgame. You're only talking to 200 other people really that are relevant to you. So it's not worth like the biscuit in that kind of sense to me.
The one thing I've done to kind of wiggle through that is I had a really strong customer advocate within an account, and I asked her to give me a quote, and so I embedded that within the emails only, and I was very clear within the personalization that this is your coworker who is using us that has said that. And that allowed me to have that, it's not a logo approval, and she did give me those words, and so I was able to show that it's only going to those email accounts due to the personalization, and that was kind of the way that I helped when I didn't have the logo approvals. I didn't put it in the ads, I didn't put it in some of those other pieces, but I did include a customer quote that was within the email campaign.
What's the general balance, like in the content? Like how much is like customer oriented or customer derived versus net new? Like, you know, we're writing an email based on some stats that we sourced, or something directly from within their own account and repurposing more than just a case study.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on which challenge you're trying to solve, and how much you know about the account. Ideally, you would have everything from their account, alongside maybe 2 or 3. This is how you're comparing to industry. Because everyone wants to know, like, how am I doing? What are we meeting standards? Are we doing better than our competitors? What are they doing with your software that we should be doing, right? So having some of those metrics, especially if it's showing success, helps. But I try to make it as much account centric as possible, just because that's helping validate what they're doing and why they're seeing success with you.
So like a quote here, a case study, maybe a dashboard report, something like that, all within the same campaign, and then supplementing it with other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if I have to go to a an industry case study because I don't have one for them, then I try to make sure it's not a full-on competitor, right? Because that doesn't make anybody happy. But yes, I try to get everything in account as possible. Yeah.
Taking that a step further, we had a lot of success with doing, and it takes a lot of coordination, but helping to curate almost like an internal showcase. So we did that at some really large organizations where, because that was quite interesting, some of these organizations were so large, they were just meeting each other for the first time at our user conference, like literally had never met their peers before. So just for perspective, like the internal awareness of what some of these people are doing with the product is, I mean, it's like you would make an assumption that like we all work at the same place. No, I mean, like, they have absolutely no idea. So we did some really cool showcases where we would have, if we had like 3 different divisions that were using the product, they would all come together and present, and then they were sort of inviting their peers either virtually or in person, and we did a couple of those, and they were really, really successful because it just helped to, I mean, again, a lot of work, but sort of taking that content and putting it on some steroids, like it was amazing. Yeah. So if you
Well, that's
have that
helping them look good amongst their
100%,
peers, right?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
that's the give back.
last week,
Yeah.
So I'm really happy about that. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. And that's you're making these people, and I think that's where the advocate piece comes in, is that you're really helping to elevate these folks inside the organization. And if they're hesitant about it, it's like you can share these examples of like, well, we work with folks like yourself, and here's, what I mean, they've gotten this, promotion, whatever it is, as like an advancement opportunity too. It's sort of elevating them as thought leaders in their own organizations, which is really powerful, especially when you're dealing with some of these huge organizations. So, yeah.
But I saw one over here. Yes.
When you're running these campaigns, like you said you're picking like 5 accounts per quarter, is it like starts on the first day of the quarter, ends on the last day of the quarter?
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Right. I'm just curious, like, how are you balancing all those campaigns, and like what do the timelines look like?
Yes. So it really depends on which trigger we're looking at. It depends. How many times can I say that today? So ideally, we're running campaigns for at least 2 to 4 months, depending on what it is we're trying to make actionable. But looking at when those campaigns hit, it's all over the place, right? So the renewal campaigns, that just matters on when it's signed. Looking at some of your retention campaigns, I'm getting that out the door quickly. So if you're looking at some of those supplemental, this is a top account, this is what we're looking at. Some of those are timed based off of their fiscal years. Some of those are timed based off of, we're getting to run into some holidays soon, so let's either get it out the door today or wait until February. So it's really, really dependent I would say that running at the same time is usually not more than 3. Yes.
I'm really curious about your current customers are exploring competitors. How do you find that? Is that on G2 Caitlin or is that a different tool?
Yes, so we have G2 Caitlin. We also pipe their information through 6 Sense. And so we also had a couple other vendors that we were sourcing intent data from also. But G2 is our favorite. Caitlin's working on a case study with us. So yeah, being able to have some of that search data is important.
And I actually just did a video with our head of demand gen, because I was telling her, like, oh, well, at my old company, I used to use G2 intent data for retention. She was like, what? So I can send you the link if you're interested. And she does, like, click by click, how we love it, yeah. I can send it to anyone.
I think we're at time, right? 3:55? Okay, cool. I don't want to stop anybody from